Hi, I'm Michael and this is Zen-Dragon. My life's been a ride of ups and downs. I think it makes for a pretty good story, actually. I want to share this story so you can get to know me. I got a talented illustrator, Jens Friborg, to help me draw my life. I'm from a country by the name of Denmark. I have a twin and two parents. My twin and I are not identical. My dad and mom were both the black sheep of their families. They were married briefly, but they separated, either before having me and my brother or shortly after. Some details of my life remain foggy and shrouded in mystery. My dad struggled with drug addiction. And my mom is, I don't like the word crazy or the label mentally ill. Someone should come up with a fresh new word with less negative connotations. I guess that someone has to be me. She is, Kazonga? You get what I mean. My brother and I were delivered by C-section. I was positioned to enter the world first, but my brother pulled me back and went out first instead. This reflects our personalities. My brother is driven, determined, and dominant, while I am laid back, peaceful, and tend to go with the flow. Our mom was not very balanced, changing from one day to the next, so most of our childhood was spent living with our dad, who in spite of problems with addiction was a responsible, fully invested parent. He would always put our happiness first and do everything in his power to make us feel safe. For brief periods when our mom was stable, we would live with her, but we didn't always get to see our parents. We were placed in an orphanage against our will. This happened 3 times. I can't remember the first time. I was too young, I guess. I definitely remember the second time. As a kid, parents mean the world, and having that taken away was harsh. Authorities should only resort to that when absolutely necessary. The positive was that the orphanage wasn't far away from our school, so we got to stay in class with our friends. Right until school time was over, when a car would come and take us away each time. The third time we were placed on an island. No, not Alcatraz. Well, not too different from that. An island called Orø. The place claimed to provide schooling, but it never did. All the kids there got to take care of animals from all over the world. Sounds like fun, but it was hard work. I got to take care of a kangaroo. Already a fan of martial arts back then, I tried to teach the kangaroo to box. Kangaroos can be dangerous when provoked, but I didn't know that then. There should have been more adult supervision, but luckily neither I nor the kangaroo suffered any harm. A few years later, sensationally, my dad won back custody in the Supreme Court. So my brother and I went home. I can confidently say this was the happiest day of my childhood. We got back into school and spent the following years learning and reconnecting with our friends. Let's move on. I first truly found myself after high school, so let's skip that part. My dad inherited some cash and spent most of it on a small motorboat. We buried our noses in an atlas, dreamt big, and a week later, we went to sea. Our sailing experience was limited, but it was about to expand. Our plan wasn't really a plan, more of a tactic. We were going to stick to the channels and sail through Germany, Netherlands, Belgium and France, possibly ending up somewhere in Spain. This turned out to be the misadventure of a lifetime. I'm not gonna cover all that happened on this trip, that would take ages, but I'll try and share the most interesting parts. The trip turned out longer than expected, probably 3 to 4 months. But the distance covered was shorter than expected. We never made it further than Amsterdam. In Harlem? No, not the place in New York. It's also a Dutch town. Something happened and my dad had to take an immediate flight home. This meant I had just enough money for food until he got back. Alone in Harlem, I was about to face adversity. Our boat was docked on a pier without permission, so I had to sail on. I felt complete freedom, steering the boat all alone. I nodded my head to everyone I passed, like a true sailor, I thought. But I wasn't attentive enough and accidentally scratched the luxurious boat of a rich elderly couple. I knew I couldn't afford to pay for the scratch, but I still pulled over to talk with the couple. I thought they would sympathize with me if I explained that I was on my own with barely enough money to eat. They didn't sympathize with me. Instead, they called the harbor police. Out of sheer frustration, I told them if the scratch mattered more to them than whether I had money for food, then they should just take what little money I had. And so, they did. For the next couple of days, I had to find free food and return bottles for cash. One of the coins I got in return, I dropped into a payphone. Yes, payphones, remember those? I called my brother and had him send me money through Western Union transfer. After a tumultuous episode at sea, we decided to end our trip. We had tried to cross Istanbul. Up until then, we had kept to the channels. Istanbul was a true test for both me, my dad, and the boat. Staying on path meant constantly crashing against the waves. The boat was making troubling sounds and we were both drenched in seawater. My dad was worried and wanted to change the direction so we wouldn't face the waves head on. I, however, was determined to stay on course. We ended up both trying to steer the boat, which caused it to zigzag, wasting fuel. Almost out of fuel, my dad persuaded me to change direction, and with what was left in fuel, I managed to steer the boat towards land. After that, my dad arranged for a guy to drive the boat from Netherlands to Germany. The back seat of the car was not allowed for passengers, so the guy told us to hide underneath a blanket. We drove the rest of the way home by train. A few years later, I passed by a traffic light and noticed a sticker hanging on the side of it. I decided to get into martial arts. It was like martial arts ignited a fire inside of me. My passion for martial arts and all of its aspects, self-defense, meditation, competition, sparring, and ultimately self-knowledge, kept increasing. I always wanted to make a difference to others, so I decided to become a school teacher. Between starting and finishing my bachelor's degree in teaching, I had some amazing experiences. Mostly from traveling, actually. For the first time in my life, I traveled alone. I went to India, which meant venturing outside of Europe. Another first. One night I was told that coconuts dropping from the palm trees caused more deaths among tourists than anything else in the region. The very next morning, I was hit by a coconut. Still alive, I looked down on the ground and saw a baby coconut. Then I heard laughter and noticed a local merchant pointing at me while laughing. The coconut had not taken my life. It was too small, I guess. But I kept it as a reminder that life can end at any moment. I still have it. In fact, one day I may show it to you. For my next trip, me and a friend joined up with my brother, who was out backpacking with our friend Victor. We traveled through Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand on this trip. It was an adventure. But the most interesting part was what happened to Victor. He got hired by a company in Saigon, and we haven't heard from him since. This guy was a laid-back, charismatic adventurer, who also had a different side as a highly competent, somewhat geeky programmer. His father was a general from Honduras. His mother, a mentally ill psychiatrist. At least that's what he said. I'm no longer sure what to believe, but we all trusted him back then. In fact, when he told us he'd been robbed, we all lent him money for the remainder of the trip. I clearly remember the guy leaving Cambodia by bus for his job interview in Saigon. He was hungover, sick, and looked like the opposite of a candidate for a high-paying job. The next time I saw him was on Facebook, sporting a brand new profile picture. He looked clean-cut and sharp and was wearing a tie standing in his new office. None of us ever saw him again. We tried to contact him, at first to hear about life, then later about the money he owed, but we got no response. My next time traveling was for a study trip in Istanbul. While my classmates paid for a hotel in the center of the city, I couch surfed and got to stay for free further from the center. I didn't know if I'd get a couch or even be let inside, but I was given the biggest room of the apartment, which had both a computer and a home cinema. I didn't really use either, but still. This was in 2013, a time of political tension in Istanbul. On the 1st of May, I tried to meet up with my class, but I had to change direction due to the May Day demonstrations. A friendly local tried to guide me along, but at every turn police told us the road was blocked. At one point we got too close to the demonstration. The local guy pointed back and said, "Look, my friend, run!" Behind us were demonstrators, running fearfully from the police. We ran downhill, and for a brief moment I could smell the scent of gas. We then turned a corner and were in safety away from all the craziness. Nothing happened to us, and I felt adrenaline but no fear. While it was sad to witness the abuse of police force, I felt blessed to have experienced a side of Istanbul not normally shown to tourists. I'm not gonna talk much about my love life, but there's one girl I have to mention. Okay, so here's the context. At first I had no clue what to do with girls. Later on I became good at meeting girls, but the encounters never turned into anything lasting or meaningful. All of a sudden I got my first real girlfriend. If she's watching, I wanna say I'm grateful to have met you and hope you're doing well. The girl I have to mention was my next girlfriend. Then my ex, then my next girlfriend, then my ex, then my next girlfriend, and finally, my ex again. She is by far the coolest girl I've ever met, and we connect deeply. We've had some memorable experiences, but sharing them here would feel odd. In spite of all our history, we will forever be cool with one another. Let's move on a bit. I'm 29 years old, and for the first time in my life, what I want is security. My priorities are these: get a full-time job, get an apartment, become a father. Let's move on a bit again. A month before turning 30, those goals look further than ever. My relationship has crashed. I have applied for countless full-time positions, but have gotten none. On top of that, I'm no longer a student, which means I'll get kicked out of my dorm. After briefly contemplating street life, I move in with my dad, who is supportive and lets me live with him for free. The apartment is run down and the kitchen is only somewhat functional, but I have a bedroom and there's a shower. Still, this feels like being back to where I was after finishing high school. As a volunteer, I work with troubled youths and experience how martial arts can positively impact the lives of others. I start thinking about teaching self-defense to the homeless of my city. Homeless people are at risk out in the streets, and besides that, it can benefit their lives through increased confidence and provide a constructive path to follow. Inspired by YouTubers such as Casey Neistat and Shane Faison, I come up with Zen-Dragon. My way of using martial arts to inspire, educate, and entertain people from all walks of life. If the martial arts content I create inspires someone to do better at school, grow as a martial artist, do better as a parent, or pursue their passion, whatever it may be, then Zen-Dragon is making a positive impact. And to me, there's no more fulfilling feeling than that. I use social media as my platform to reach people from around the world. I practice martial arts, meet martial artists, and begin teaching self-defense to a homeless guy from Sri Lanka. I've never worked as hard on anything as I do in this project. Martial arts, networking, social media branding, blogging, filmmaking. There's always something to do. I earn no money from this project, and there's a good chance I never will. But I earn knowledge and experience, things money can't buy. When my passion allows me to connect with you guys, I feel blessed and inspired. Even if Zen-Dragon plays a tiny role in bettering someone's life, then I'm grateful to have started the project. In the future, I hope to connect more with you guys, and that Zen-Dragon will provide inspiration, entertainment, and meaning to all of us. So if that sounds good to you, then you're more than welcome. And thanks for watching.